Now for this part, I'm going to have a short talk on delving more deeply into your microbiome. And your homework was to watch the video from last year because this is a follow-up to that. Because I asked the question, should you have your gut microbiome analyzed? And I'm willing to go to links for this class. And in this case, I did. I had my microbiome analyzed. Okay? I chose UBiome, and they send you this nice little kit. It's $89 for one analysis. They have all kinds of things you can do, but I just did this one. And inside, they have a swab, a little tube in the tube there. And after you clean up after a bowel movement, you take the toilet paper and you wipe that swab across the toilet paper and you put it in a little vial that they provide for you. Then you slip it into the mailer and send it back. All very simple and very easy. Now, when I got my results, I thought this sounded really good. It said I had 98% of match with people who are healthy and who they've analyzed. Okay? So that sounds pretty good, but it's not quite as good as it sounds. They do then report, they give you a very great deal of data. They give you individuals' reports on microbiomes associated with healthy weight, alcohol metabolism. I did well on that one. Sleep quality, probiotics, and lactose intolerance, which is so common. And it was really interesting reading to me. But I decided if I went through all of them, we'd be here till next Saturday. And so what they do in each individual is they analyze the balance of your microbes compared to healthy people. Like, do you have fewer or more or the same? And so that's what they're looking at, the balance of them. And then they tell you there are certain actions you can take if you're out of balance. Like foods, what foods you should eat, supplements, lifestyle and other whatevers, changes that you might want to make. And then they have references. So they do a very good job of giving you the data plus the background of the references in which they're using. And so I thought that was really good. So the one I decided to talk about today is the one that's the most common. How many people in here are lactose intolerant? Yeah, a lot of us, including myself. This is a very common problem. Lactose is a sugar that's found in all the dairy products that we all enjoy and like. And the way it works is the small intestine produces the enzyme lactase. And so when it hits your small intestine, then it's digested into glucose and galactose, which are then readily absorbed into the bloodstream. And that's where you get nutrition. However, if you're lactose intolerant, like in, if you're over on this side, what happens is the lactose goes in there, but you don't have the lactase enzyme. And so the lactose pulls water into your intestinal tract, okay? And that lactose can feed some rather unpleasant bacteria there who produce gases and acids, which irritates your gut, and so it's kind of a cycle. So your gut gets irritated, plus you've got a lot more water. Now, unfortunately, as we become older, we make less lactase. That's pretty common. And so that's one of the reasons it's such a frequent event for people. But there's another reason, genetics. Lactose intolerance, 70% of the people in the world. And the reason being, if you look at the green areas, these are areas of the world where dairy has always been a major nutrient for all the time we grow up and through into adulthood. If you look at the dark blue, that is not the case. So what happened over generations is people who could tolerate lactose and digest it thrived, and they were the ones that reproduced. So we generated a lactose-tolerant nation in the U.S., whereas in Asia, that is not the case. So they have very little, usually, lactase, and they did not develop the lactose tolerance. And that's the reason it's so common in that area of the world. Now, the symptoms are unpleasant. All of us who've had it know you feel like you're going to float across the room. There'll be some pain. Diarrhea is the biggie. Remember that lactose is pulling the water into your gut? That's what creates the diarrhea. You get lots of gas, which people don't appreciate. Sometimes nausea. I've not had that one. And it happens fairly quickly, within 30 minutes to 2 hours after you eat, because that's the time it takes to get to the small intestine. Okay? Unfortunately, there's no way you can boost your own lactase production. That doesn't work. You can limit dairy products, which a lot of us do. There are a lot of lactose-reduced or non-lactose containing entities you can buy now in every supermarket. But most of us that have it use lactase enzyme tablets. And these are over the counter, and that's what I use, but you have to take it right at the first bite of that ice cream or that whatever you're going to eat that is a dairy product. And then that gets in there. That's actually lactase. So you're artificially introducing lactase into your intestinal tract to help digest the lactose. And it works, but you have to do it consistently. Now there's one situation, lactobacillus is one of the good bacteria in our gut, and it can digest lactose. So some of the things I got back on my analysis was, to use either the products to help reduce it or eat more things with lactobacillus in it, because that will help feed that particular group. Now, when I was talking about this, I started talking to my husband, which I do. This is our 56th year of marriage, and he often has good, yay! He often has good advice, because I was saying, oh, this is so exciting. I know the class is going to want to know all about all these microbes. And his response was, honey, not everyone finds gut microbes fascinating like you do. And he was really right. So I decided I would switch a little bit and talk a little bit more about myself personally and professionally, since this is a graduation talk. And so why am I so fascinated with microbes? Well, it started very early, and I always shared it with my family. These are our sons, Bill and Louis, and I have them out there swabbing birds for influenza viruses. We put them to work early in our family. Now, some of you may have met them last year, because both of them spoke in the mini med school, and there's been a lot of change since I had them swabbing birds. And change is a key word in my life, and I'm sure in yours. Change, change, change. And my life has changed just a little bit, from the quiet little girl to a not-so-good majorette to today. But change is really important. And that's one reason I really love this quote by Jimmy Carter. We must adjust to changing times and still hold to unchanging principles. And so a long time ago, I thought about, well, what are my principles? And I think it's important for everybody to think, what's most important to you? And mine are, be respectful to others, be responsible for my own behavior, be aware that what I do and how I do it are equally important. And so I think everybody ought to think about that. It has been important for me. Now, back to my fascination, it started with reading books. My family moved a lot during my childhood, and so books were my constant friends. Whenever you move, you have to start again on your friends and everything else, so books were always there. Plus, I was very disciplined. I would allow myself 15 minutes of pleasure reading every day. And so I inadvertently taught myself to be a speed reader, which makes it really hard when you have to carry lots of books on the airplane, so I love my Kindle. Okay? And my favorite book was this one, The Microbe Hunters. And it was written in 1926, and I'm not quite that old. But it's still very popular, and it was about all these great microbe hunters that went around the world and discovered the causes of different diseases and how to stop them, from the Panama Canal to the U.S. to Africa. And so I kept reading about microbes, and I decided I'd do a science fair project. And I was probably 8 or 9 at that point, because my hero was Alexander Fleming, who discovered penicillin. which saved so many lives, including people in my own family. So this was really exciting. And that's the Penicillium mold. And so I have to grow it for my science project. So I read, and I misread. I'm sure what the book said was you could grow it off of pot liquor, which is the leftover fluid from cooking vegetables. It's full of nutrients. It's really good for you. But I thought it said corn liquor. Moonshine. So I went to my mother and I said, Mother, I can't do my project. We don't have any moonshine. And Mother thought for just a couple minutes and she said, oh, that's no problem. She says, I know the probate judge who handles all the moonshine cases in Aiken, South Carolina, where we were living. So we'll go to the courthouse and wait till the trial's over and get some of the evidence. And that's what we did. And my mold loved it. And I won the science fair. And I became a microbiologist. But the most important lesson I learned from my mother was knocking the T off the word can't. You have to constantly do that. And as we age, that becomes even more important. And since I was admiring all these microbiologists, my favorite expression came from Louis Pasteur, who was a wonderful microbiologist in France. And he said, chance favors the prepared mind. And that's why I'm so committed to education and research, because you prepare your mind to recognize that chance that you can make a positive difference. And it's really powerful when you think about those words. I really think that's very impacting. Now also, microbiology can become a rat race. So I also really liked the quote from Lily Tomlin, my favorite comedian. She said, the trouble with being in the rat race is that even if you win, you're still a rat. So all of us, of course, want to decide not to be a rat. Now, along the way, I found many occasions where I was a first, and I'm sure there are many firsts in here, whether your gender, your ethnic background, sexual orientation, whatever. We were the first in certain positions. Being the first. Well, this one I really loved. First to win doctorate. This was at Auburn in microbiology. I didn't win it. It wasn't a lottery. I earned it. But I've been the first woman in 5 positions. And I always had a vision about this, and it has to do with bathrooms. My granddaddy was a plumber, and I've always loved plumbing, as I did him. But when I was coming along in science, usually I was the only woman using the bathroom if they had one. And there's some interesting stories attached to that part. But anyhow, my vision was having a large group of women in the bathroom. Not because I like to see women suffer while they wait, but because it means we're fully participating. And so after that, and here clearly that's the case, so after that I devoted myself to potty parity. Be sure that everybody has equal access to bathrooms. Now about change, I'm going to tell you about the last 20 years in which I've been working. I was at UW-Madison, and there I worked on influenza viruses in humans, lower mammals, and birds, and I've done that for over 20 years. And then I moved to UC Davis. I went into administration at UW-Madison. And then I went to UC Davis as provost and executive vice chancellor. There's myself on my Segway, tootling around campus. It was great because it's very flat and dry there, so I used it a lot. And it's a great educational tool. And along the way, I spent time as Tina Turner to teach virology because she's my role model, and I think she's fabulous. And then, of course, I ended up here as a chancellor of the University of Hawaii at Manoa, which I very much enjoyed. Challenging, but very fulfilling. And then here as Chancellor Emeritus and Japson Professor. And I should add, I also am the state javelin champion in my age group. Now, I don't have any competitors, but But I want to tell you, I'm going to Albuquerque this summer because I'm going to be participating in the National Senior Games. And I'll be representing Hawaii, and along with my group, I formed the Jazzy Javeliers. And our goal is not to be last. So sometimes you have to change your goals along the way. But certainly a major joy has been in developing and directing the Dr. Rosita Leong Mini Medical School on Healthy Aging. We learn a lot and we enjoy each other. We have a great time. I think it's so wonderful to have this group, and I'm really pleased to be part of it. And I plan a lot. I'm a planner. There goes a lot of planning into this program, but I want to tell you about two types of plans. One, for next year, I'm planning a reunion of all the mini medical school students, teachers, volunteers, everybody, on a program that will deal with music and humor. Both of my favorite topics, okay? And the other plan that I do, and I've done this in every position I've been in, succession planning. You have to plan for succession. And that's identifying and developing new leaders who can replace current leaders. And I put a lot of thought into this because I really want the mini med school to continue and blossom and go on for many decades. So I'm pleased today to announce I have a choice, and it's someone you know quite well and respect and appreciate, and that is Dr. Kamal Masaki. And she's here. And So Kamal is my director in training. We were already meeting and planning and how we're going to do it. I know she will maintain the excellence and the quality of this program. And Dean Jarris Hedges sent a memo to David Lasner, the president of the system, requesting that my part-time position be dedicated to the mini medical school. And I'm sure that he'll want to approve that, because I'm sure y'all have told him about how great it is. And if not, I'll be back to you. But in this way, we can have a smooth transition and have everybody enjoying it, and it's continuing in the best of ways. And so always remember, regardless of who is director, that seniors do rock. And as always, you make my heart smile. Mahalo nui loa.